Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
What's up, Supernatural superfans? I'm Chrissy Lenz.
And I'm Nate McWhorter.
And we're the host of
Gang That Drink,
a supernatural drinking game podcast.
It's the podcast where we make up drinking game rules for a favorite episode of our favorite show, Supernatural.
We recap the episode for you and let you know how all the rules played out.
Then we let you know the drinking game rules for the next episode, so you can play along.
Plus, members get every episode early and ad-free.
With some extra bonus content chit-chat at the end of each episode as a member exclusive.
So download Gank That Drink, a supernatural drinking game podcast wherever the finest podcasts are available.
And or become a member at truestory.fm/gankthatdrink.
And when you're out there in the world saving people and hunting things,
you know, the family business.
Keep the Gank That Drink motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party
on, dudes.
Meet Zinnia.
You are being very polite to someone who is attempting to kill us.
Her wife, Saffron.
You know I'm wildly, madly in love with you.
And their best friend, Goldie.
Glad we didn't miss all the fun.
Swords in hand, they defend their city from the worst of humanity.
I am Lord Buxton Blue.
Equity Electric.
Herr Haig. Virgil Walcott. Vicious Swab.
Follow their adventures on the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society audio drama podcast. Available now at truestory.fm/swashbuckling.
Friends, foes, Jedi, Sith, and all those in the middle, we are back. This is Star Wars Generations podcast, and there's so much of Star Wars we love to talk about. But if you are like us, you've been counting down the days, counting down the hours, counting down the minutes till Andor Season 2 goes live. Last night it happened at 8 p.m. Central Time. We got to watch the first 3 episodes. We're coming to you now on Wednesday. Hopefully this will go out to you by Thursday morning. We are super excited about it. We're super excited to have you part of the conversation. I'm joined right now by Erin. Alex will be joining us soon. Erin, what'd you think of these episodes?
Okay, I'm going to be so real with you.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday was a very long day of like school and work, and we had to do like a presentation to children, which is a high stress situation for me. I'm not great with kids. I'm really good with them, but they make me uncomfortable.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I got home at the end of the day and I finished all my homework at like 7:30, and I was like, I'm gonna watch one episode of American Dad, and then like Andor comes out, right? And so I watched one episode and then I'm like, God damn it. Like I smoked. I was like, I don't feel like getting into a political drama right now. Like, and so
That's
right
fair.
at 8:00, I was texting Alex and I texted him, Andor is out and I don't really want to watch it right now. At the exact second that delivered, he texted me, it's Andor time.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is awkward. And I was just like, no, I'm just like so sad and down. And he was like, no, you got to do it. And I was like, no, I have a responsibility and I know it'll be good. And within like the first 20 seconds, I was locked the fuck in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely get that feeling. And certainly, like, within the first couple minutes, it told us, by the way, if you thought last season was political, within 5 minutes, we have characters who don't have visas being chased down as farm workers. Like, this is, so, like, the fact they even used the word visas, it was so clearly set up to be about what's going on today. Everything in it feels ripped from the headlines and so good and so perfect for Star Wars. I think this is going to be a really fun season to talk about. I think it's going to hit hard. I think some of it's going to be hard to talk about. So far, overall, I was very locked in. There was one plot line that I wasn't wild about and that I thought was maybe kind of a little shaky, but the other ones I thought were fantastic, and I'm just excited to talk about all of it.
Yeah, it was a really great kind of overview. I kept getting a little worried that we would spend too much time in one place because I'm like, damn, we only got 3 episodes for a whole year. And then they would like pick right up, and I was like, oh, we're good. Like, we're good.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there to all the stuff. It was a really enjoyable watch. I did end up going through all 3 episodes, even though it had an early morning. It didn't end up being as late as I thought because each episode has like 7+ minutes of credits.
Yeah.
So it says they're much longer than they are, even though 7 minutes isn't a lot of time. You get it. It's girl math.
Yeah. It's really like 95, 100 minutes maybe, a little over an hour and a half total for all 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I watched through it and I was just so enthralled. And there are so many, just like, especially after the conversation we had on Monday with Alex about like our thoughts and ideas. And I was just like, there was just a few plot points that I just like was shaking my head laughing. I was like, no fucking way. Like, it's good.
And we're going to talk about how some of the predictions we made that are already starting to come true, some things we were curious about, how Star Wars Rebels fans were eating this entire episode. And I want to save a lot of that for once our friend Alex joins us. But I think maybe the best way to talk about this is to kind of break it down into the different plot lines that were happening. And we'll start with one that I probably liked the least, even though some parts were really good, and that's Andor himself. And his journey about stealing a TIE fighter, an experimental TIE fighter, going to a planet to meet up with his rebel contacts, where it turns out there's a whole bunch of rebels fighting with each other on a planet that I'm pretty sure we're supposed to know was Yavin 4. And then eventually going to the farm planet and getting to rescue everybody. Let's just talk with that first opening scene where he's stealing an experimental TIE fighter. That's the TIE Interceptor that Thrawn was so excited about making, right?
That's not a me question, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Alex would probably know better than I, but
that was my understanding. Like, yeah.
To me, that was the show telling us within like 15 seconds, by the way, we know that this is happening at the same time with Rebels. We're being very conscious of that. And I don't want to get my hopes up, but I think we might get a blue man on screen at some point in time. Like, because this is that time where we know from both the TV show Rebels and from a lot of the novels that one of the people who's working against Krennic and building the Death Star is Grand Admiral Thrawn. And what he wants to sink all that money into is this TIE Interceptor project. And that's, I'm pretty sure, the ship that Cassian was stealing.
Yeah, that's a really sick connection. Sorry, I leaned away from the mic. That's a really sick connection. I love it how they tie in stuff like that. Tie, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I loved that opening scene because I was like locked in. I was like, ooh, he's on it. Like, Cassian's got it. You know, and he has that conversation with that girl and I'm like, yeah. And then he goes up to the TIE and he like shoots the droid and I was like, damn, Cassian don't give a fuck. And then he gets inside the ship and he like boots it up and I was like, damn, he's killing this. And then reverses backwards into the hangar and I was like, you fucked that up so bad so fast. And it just got worse and worse.
As someone who recently bought a new car and has a couple times turned on the windshields when I didn't mean to, and my garage door might have a teeny bit of a dent when I reversed when I didn't mean to reverse, driving a new vehicle is hard. Like, it's hard. You gotta figure things
that's
out.
true.
And yeah, I related to Cassian in that moment.
Yeah,
So-
I just thought it was funny. I was having this moment of like, are they like comparing him to Anakin with like this confidence? He's about to like pull something crazy off. And I was like, oh no, that's more of an Anakin move to fuck it up immediately. But I don't think they're making a comparison at all. But like, that's what it reminded me of for a second when Anakin's like got that confidence. And then he just fumbled from there.
He really did. So he goes from there. Once he gets away, he goes to another planet. That I don't think they said it, but
yes, he crash lands on Yavin 4.
What was it we saw that told us that?
Distinctive pyramid structures.
That's it. Okay. Cool. Which are actually ones that exist. Yavin was shot in Guatemala, which is importantly that's why Oscar Isaac wanted his character to come from Yavin because he himself is from Guatemala. So more cool tie-ins there. But yeah, that was the one plot line that I kind of struggled with. And I think I really got what they were going for. And this is where he spends time with this rebel group that the person he was supposed to meet up with has fled. This other group is sort of connected to them. It's this own group of rebels. They don't trust him. He doesn't trust them. And eventually they start fighting with each other. And I really liked what they were saying with that scenes. It just and we'll talk about what it was, but like it felt like it just went on so long. Did you get that sense, or were you really kind of locked in for all of that?
I was pretty locked in. That was the storyline that I got scared he was going to be stuck there for the full like 3 episodes, and I was like, please, Cassian, like do
Yeah.
something, anything. But honestly, I did love the bickering. Oh my god, I loved whatever the fuck it was when they're like, we've been trying to kill each other for 2 days. What if we lay down our arms and play a hand game?
Yeah, space rock paper scissors was how they were going to try and figure things out. Which, like,
4-person space rock paper scissors with sound effects.
that has happened in terms of like there are battles where people have like late stopped and been like, let's do something stupid just to settle this so we can all go home. Yeah, for me it dragged on too long, but I did love what was being said there because again, so much of this is commenting on what's happening in the real world, and for me, among other things, it's a reminder of like forming a rebellion isn't easy, and like it is going to be bringing a lot of groups together. And when you have a lot of secrecy, a lot of people aren't going to trust each other, and a lot of people are going to be pretty stupid. And like, if you don't think that's what happens when you try to form a resistance, go hang out on the online left on Twitter for a little while. And as a proud leftist, I can tell you it's hell out there a lot of the times, with a lot of people making a lot of stupid arguments against each other, and circular firing squad instead of having good discussions. And it just felt like this was such a commentary on all of that, as well as being great commentary on where Andor is now, because, back in season 1, he was the one who didn't trust. He was the one who wasn't sure he wanted to get involved. And now he's the one who's locked in. Now he's the one who's like, you guys have your petty squabbles. I want to go hang out with the people who actually have their shit together, who got me to steal the ship.
And yeah, it's like he's so locked in that he's now like, he was unsure. Now he's recruiting. He's not only recruiting, but he's telling the recruit the whole reason, or the whole thing that makes the rebellion worthwhile, is recruiting people.
Right.
And like helping them away from the Empire.
Right.
Like that is a huge change for his perspective on the rebellion and like the trust that goes into it.
Yeah, he's 100% all in now. Even back at the end of season 1, he first comes back to Ferrex, more to like try and rescue Bix and rescue his people. And, that's not where he is now. And I think there's still a coldness to him. Like, he doesn't try to give a big speech to get all these rebels who are fighting with each other on Yavin to all join him. He's like, he's doing triage, basically. He's like, y'all are real stupid, and I'm going to cut my losses and just get out. Like, I think he would have been happy to work with all of them. But when they just got into the fighting and the arguing and then the space rock, paper, scissors, which involves some sort of like menacing dragon face, I got nothing. He was happy to peace out.
Yeah. It, honestly, like he was helping them. He was like, it's raining. Don't you want to bring some water?
Right.
Hey, it's foggy out. We haven't seen them in a while. Perimeter, anybody? Like he's like spoon feeding them help, and they just like can't. And they go play a hand game about it. I think that's when he's like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Yeah. like fuck this. And then that animal came through at the perfect time. Just the best distraction on top of him already getting away.
Yeah, I think that was another place where I rolled my eyes a little bit, because they'd said that there were monsters out there, and then they heard what was clearly a monster, and then all of them just stood around when they heard it and were like, oh, a monster. We could have never imagined that would be the exact plot point that would happen right about now. But that's a classic Star Wars thing,
they love a good monster.
There's always going to be a good monster. There's always going to be I have a bad feeling about this. They're just some things that we're just kind of stuck with in Star Wars, and so
I loved how with this monster, it's like, we just left him in his habitat. He was whooping their asses. Like, this is not like a find a monster, kill a monster story. This is monster gets his home planet and the other guy flies away.
Yeah. I did like that. So often we wind up going off to kill the monster when it's not a monster. It's just a living thing, and we're kind of stomping all over its homeland.
It's habitating, yeah.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a bit, because then we get a rom-com. We get a fun little couple at home, and they're going through their struggles, and they're doing their best. And what'd you think of it, Dedra and Cyril?
I texted Alex. I think it was in all caps. I went, the eye fuckers are domestic? Because of what he had said in our episode, which I guess is bonus, but he had mentioned that like the actors alluded to something. He was like, I think they were
Mhm.
saying that they were just eye fucking the entire season.
Yep.
No, they're actual fucking the entire season.
Yeah.
So much so that she yells at his mother.
Yeah.
And actually, that plot point or plot line is where I got the name. You can't see our screen names right now, but my screen name today is Cyril's Diva Flop.
Yeah.
Because
he
how
just,
he gets upset and he goes, it just flops on the bed, just like face down.
it was just, and it's like, it's been in so many sitcoms. It's a moment that's been in so many movies and stuff like that, particularly where there's Jewish humor, because it's like, she's not just this, but she fits very well into the trope of the Jewish mother. And like often the idea of like kind of the nebbishy boyfriend who can't challenge her until his girlfriend or wife, often who's not Jewish, but is willing to stand up to his mother. And he's like, "Oh no, you're fighting!" But thank God someone finally stood up to my mother for me. And yeah, it was just beautiful. And the mother was just being as evil and awful as she's ever been. And I love her being just like calling her out, calling out the uncle, and being like, "We're not going to worry about what the uncle thinks anymore, because actually I'm in the real empire, and he's just a joke." Down to like Cyril, like when Cyril got drafted into the Bureau of Statistics or Standards, whatever it is, last time, and he got given this ridiculous speech, and he's now also recruiting. He's the one giving that exact
giving
same
the
speech to the new trainee, even though he's flying off and doing all the security stuff with Dedra. But yeah, he's still in there, and he found a way to hunt down some people who were doing oil stealing shit.
Yeah, it's Cyril is a simple man, I feel like.
He really is.
And their dynamic makes so much sense. Yeah. It just does.
You said that they're fucking all through the season. I'm not sure that their romance is gonna last through the next 4 years. Three more seasons.
You're right. It's years.
Arcs. Yeah. Yeah, that's part of why, again, I had that same feeling of like, I wish they hadn't spent quite so much time with those people like just stuck on Yavin, because like, yeah, it's like I want more to happen this year. But yeah, so what do you think? Like, why did we need that? Was it just for comic relief, or why do you think those scenes of Deirdre and Cyril were important?
I think it's showing that it's like we see Deirdre. That was the first time we saw her. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. At home, domestic, kind of joking around with her partner, whatever, making plans. And then we also see her telling, I don't know the commander's name, but like, oh no, she says it directly to Krennic. She said, "We need Ghorman rebels you can depend on to do the wrong thing."
Right.
When talking about how to basically like jeopardize a planet and their community.
Yep.
She's like, just wait for the rebels to fuck up and then stomp on them, basically. And then she goes home and has dinner with her mother-in-law. And
so this is why I think those scenes are there, and I want to talk about all the Ghorman stuff in a minute, because that's really important. It has some great references in it too. But I think part of it's there is to show like Andor and the rebels, like they're starving to death. They're trying to figure out how to find anything to eat other than these like rotten food bars and fruits and melons. Whereas these people, their life is so hard, their life is so easy street, that the hardest thing is like the mother-in-law yelling at them too much. I think it's really, it felt like a very different tone. And I think that was intentional to be like, this is the very different world. These people they're with the Empire, so they get to have this really nice, comfortable life.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I kind of feel like it's also like, if this energy or relationship lasts into the next year, I think we'll see a starker dichotomy, or like maybe starker difference between it's like Deirdre being an actual tyrant at work, or Dedra being a tyrant at work, and then going home and having like a normal, happy little life.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe like commentary on how it's like these people who are, that we would refer to as monsters, like war criminals, like in history, it's like, but they just have like a family and a life, and like they're just like chilling. It's like, that's a person too. And I feel like so often we demonize people by being like, they're a monster, but it's like, no, that's a person, and they have responsibility, and they did what they did anyways.
There's this wonderful like way of looking at history that I once heard that talks about how at one point in time there were 3 world leaders, and 2 of them were like just awful people in their personal lives in a lot of ways. They were constantly cheating on their wives. They were doing all this lying and stuff. And then the third one like had a girlfriend for his entire life, loved dogs, and was like really good to dogs the whole time, and like did all these nice things. And the 2 awful ones are Winston Churchill and FDR. And the one who like didn't cheat on his girlfriend at all and was really good with dogs and other things like that was Hitler. You know, like it's like, yeah, we want these monsters to be monsters in all of their life. But in some ways we want that because then we can feel safer. We can think like, wait, no, I am like a decent person, so I could never be part of these terrible things. But actually, yeah, it's we want them to be evil and terrible. But evil can be like the book Banality of Evil is just such an important structure in all this.
And I feel like for me, it's like, shit, what were we just saying?
That Hitler was good to dogs and
Right. It's the idea of like people want to demonize them, not think of them as people, not think of them as normal, because that could be your neighbor and you'd have no idea.
Right.
It's like, I think as humans, we want to believe that we can like read situations or catch threats. You know, it's an internal thing. You're always looking for a threat.
Right.
And like to see people be so, you know, quote, quote, normal, and then what they are at work or what they are elsewhere, I think is like intentional as well.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah, because it's that it could be your neighbor, it could be you. You know, it's I think people, we want to think like we will know a monster when we see them, but the reality is no, it's just that's not how that works. Well, and so let's now go into the other part of Deirdre's story. Is it Dedra? Dedra, thank you. And yeah, because she's part of this ISB meeting where they're meeting with Krennic, and they need to get these resources off of Ghorman, and so they have to figure out a way to deal with the fact that the people like are living there and stuff. And one of the first things I think is important to mention is for people who like, if the name Ghorman is ringing a bell, in Rebels, when Mon Mothma goes on the run, the thing that she did that really angered everyone was speaking out against the Empire's abuse of Ghorman.
No, I never would have caught that as someone who's only seen Rebels once. Damn.
Yeah, it rang a bell, and I did some digging. And the other one, this was pointed out to me. I would not have caught it. But there's a character, I think his name is Erskine. It's something like that. But he's one of the people who's helping Mothma escape in Rebels, animated. And that character was introduced in live action.
Oh, that's cool.
We were wondering if that escape was going to happen. I think we were definitely setting that up. But yeah, what'd you think of the whole thing about the Empire like introducing us first by this like, you know, a happy little planet that has this great weaving because these cute little spiders, and oh, by the way, we're going to destroy the whole world because we need to get the fuel that's under the soil.
I mean, at the start of the scene, I thought it was like really funny. I was like, he's trolling them. Like he's trolling. He's waiting to see who says, what the fuck is this first, so he can make an example of them. Like he's trolling the shit out of these people. And then he just stopped it and went on his rant anyways. And then it got a lot less funny and trolly. But I just thought it was wild. That storyline is very interesting. Just like how so many people were so obviously uncomfortable, but just like the way the admiral or the way the higher up says to Dedra later is like, were you invited to the meeting? Then you accepted the job.
Right.
Like there's no saying no to this.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna do it.
Yeah. And I just thought everything about it was structured so interestingly. Again, and again, I don't want to make this all just about the political references, but I think if you don't talk about them, you're missing part of the show because it's very intentional. You know, the idea that it starts out with, we need energy independence. And the way they're doing that is by literally just taking energy from other people. Like, if that's not, you know, sounds relevant to you in today's world, like you're really not paying attention. And this whole idea they have of like, well, we'll hurt their local culture, we'll hurt them, but we just have to do it. And then the attitude of, first of all, one of the things they establish is that the reason they have to do this is because Ghorman is a well-known planet. People like to buy their stuff. People know Ghorman. Because in another plot line that we'll get to in a minute, we're seeing like, you know, these farmers on Outer Rim worlds being totally abused and treated terribly, and no one cares. But because now they're going to do it to a planet that everyone cares about, now not only do we have to worry about that, but we have to figure out a way to justify it. And just the cynicism of we have to create a reason why we need to do this to these people to make these people less sympathetic. All of that. That was in some ways one of the hardest, not the hardest, we'll get to that for sure, but one of the hardest parts to watch for me, because it just felt so real and so cynical and so very much like, yeah, I believe it in Star Wars because it happens in our own world.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting that it's like we need a reason to oppress these people. Like, how can we defame these people to the extent that we can just literally suck the life out of their planet?
Yeah, and probably have to evacuate most of the people out of the planet.
Well, they say evacuation is ideal, but in case it's not possible,
Right.
we need another option.
Yeah, it might be they kill all these people off.
Yeah.
Which
they just let the planet die with the people on it.
And to me also, it underlines that it's easy to see Alderaan as the first time the Empire crossed that line, you know? And I think what we're getting here is the Empire has destroyed planets and entire civilizations before. It's just that the Death Star speed makes it much more efficient. You know, the Death Star, you just push a button, you do it in 5 seconds, instead of having this multi-year plan where you have to figure everything out and come up with all the fake evidence and all this stuff.
Yeah. No, you're so right. It's like, it's just showing us the underbelly of the Empire, basically.
Right.
And how it got to where. Because it's like, coming into Star Wars, you know, cold, knowing nothing about it, it's like, how does a dictatorship get to the point of like, let's blow up planets? Like, that's the only way people will listen. But it's like, it shows the progression of the abuse of power and just abuse of people's and resources, and how it gets to the point that it's displayed on screen. And I think I really like the backfilling Star Wars is able to do these days to
100%.
enhance the original, not enhance the original trilogy because they're amazing as is, but it's like to add just backstory.
Yeah, it adds depth. I think.
Add some depth and add some context for certain things.
Yeah, and I think that's happened all across. You know, we talk a lot about how the Clone Wars added a lot to the prequels, and the, you know, a lot of the Mando shows and stuff have added a lot to the sequels. And while the OT is my favorite trilogy, I think it still needs some filling in. And as always, if you don't want the filling in, you can still just watch the original movies. Like, it's not going to change them in any way, shape, or form. But if you do want to know more about that, if you do want to know more about how did we get to the point where the Empire can just blow up a planet and not expect the whole world, the whole galaxy to say, F you, this is how. This is the process we get through.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one very important thing about the board meeting.
Go for it.
Because Alex isn't here. They dropped the actual use of unlimited power. Krennic is like, you guys don't understand the importance to the Empire of unlimited power.
Yeah.
And I was like, no fucking way.
He didn't have the mwahaha, but he definitely did say those exact words.
He continued on with more stuff afterwards, but I didn't write it all down because I was just like, no way he said that.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. How did you? I know you're a big Krennic fan girl. How did you feel about seeing him back?
I'm a Krennic fan girl.
You were really excited to see Krennic back. You like the swishy cape?
Yeah, I do like the swishy cape, and I like. Actually, yes, he is a very good villain. I do like his character a lot. Love it. I can't wait to see him get stomped on. Hopefully later this season, a little politically. However, I might just have to watch Rogue One again.
I mean, I think there's no way we don't watch Rogue One after watching the end of Andor. Like,
correct.
They've said we should do exactly that. And I think it's going to be perfect. And I think one of the things that I like is part of what we're seeing is that there's all sorts of different reasons why people go along with the empire. You've got the true believers, people like Cyril, who really are just like, yeah, I think this is going to be good for everyone. You've got people like Dedra, who are really about like, they want authority and power, and I think they believe in the empire, but also like they want to have their own little piece of it. And then you've got people who are just kind of like, they're all very scared to go along with it. And this is going to cross connect a little bit, but you talked about all the different people who were so afraid during that meeting, but they were still not going to question it. We just did a superhero ethics episode about the book Sunrise on the Reaping, the new Hunger Games books, but one of the major themes of that is the importance of compliance for fascism and authoritarianism to take over. And then all the people who, yeah, they're scared out of their minds, but because of that fear, they go along with it and they don't stand up. They don't say, no, this is wrong, that they're part of what lets all the terrible things happen. And we have to wrestle with that, not just point fingers, but say, how are we all doing that? That's exactly what we're seeing in that meeting. All those people who are, it seems like most of them are like, this is further than we thought we were going to go. This is not okay. But none of them speak up. They're all just like holding that fear inside.
And even there were a few of them that asked like very, very careful questions about it.
Yeah.
That like signaled to discomfort, but like came off as productive to the project.
Yeah.
Like these people are thinking before they speak.
Yeah. Well, because they've probably seen what happens to people who don't. And they just disappear. I think we're not quite into the Vader will force choke you in the middle of a meeting. Like I am kind of curious where at this point in time he fits in the Imperial structures, and like if he does show up randomly, or if that's really just kind of starts in A New Hope. But yeah, I think even through the Emperor, people know that like disloyalty is gonna get you in real trouble. So Brasso and Bix and a couple of the others from Ferrex have all found themselves on this planet called Minu Rao, that is kind of like the breadbasket for the Empire, and it's, they love biomes. This one seems to be covered entirely by wheat. That's pretty much all we ever see. I'm sure there's some other things on the planet, but that's mostly what it is, and a few buildings. And apparently there's so much need for farming here that there are workers who come, like people who are refugees from other areas often come here. And even though they don't have like the proper documentation, they are allowed to be on here. And because they're picking they're doing the farm work that is needed because no one else wants to do it.
Yeah.
And but they're always at risk of someone coming along and saying, actually, no, I do want to check your paperwork. And if you think that the connection between this and real life is coincidental, they literally call the documents they're using visas.
Yes,
which is exactly what is being checked for, who has a work visa, who doesn't, in terms of immigration happening in this country at this moment. So, yeah, what do you think just in terms of that initial setup of what we saw and of, Brasso and all them basically being undocumented farm workers?
So for me, I kind of like was thinking back to like the chain codes from when the Empire first began. That's what I was imagining.
Yep.
So at first I didn't fully connect it
Okay.
until I really like heard them say visa. Because, okay, here's the thing, guys. Not only was I kind of sad last night, I had a lot to do. I had to do my laundry, clean my bathroom. So I was watching it on my phone. So I wasn't like staring at the screen watching the subtitles.
Yeah.
So I could have misheard things or missed things. But yeah, so it took me a second because in my mind, I'm thinking about the chain codes.
Right.
And how they've just been implemented and how these people are on the run from the Empire, basically. And then when they were like planning out how to move and all that stuff, I was like, wait a second. This is feeling oddly familiar.
Yeah, and I think that was probably intentional. Like, the chain codes isn't something that's widely known in Star Wars. It comes from the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
But it's certainly been referenced in other things. But my guess is that that's exactly why they used this language, because chain codes doesn't have quite that same relevance, even though it's the same basic thing of like the documentation that allows you to be and work in a certain place.
They're just trying to spell it out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. It was, that whole thing was just like a lot of anxiety to watch and stress, every aspect of it. I I feel so bad for that guy, Mel. I don't know his full name, but I think they referred to him as Mel.
Mm-hmm.
And that chick he was dating.
Yeah, they have. It's interesting how they kind of hit a lot of the tropes of that kind of storytelling, and that there's the sweet, nice white girl who's the daughter of the rich farmer who is dating
The young love.
the undocumented guy, and they have to separate at the end. And I really thought one of them was going to die, and I was kind of glad at least that they didn't.
Me too.
Also, I thought at first it seemed like the storyline was going to be that her parents turned them all in.
Yeah.
But at the end, you see this moment pass between Brasso and him that they've actually been like helping to harbor these people. And when the Imperials catch Brasso, he has a chance to turn the rest of them in, and he doesn't. And it's this kind of like really nice, noble moment of Brasso, like recognizing like, yeah, they're in a more privileged position, but also they're just as much at risk as I am, and I don't need to take them down with me.
Mm. Yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't quite catch that look. I was just like, damn, this guy fucking sucks. Because that was her dad, right?
Yeah. That was her
Yeah,
dad.
I was like, damn. The hell?
And we now have an Alex with us.
Hi.
Welcome. We are talking about visas.
Yeah, we're talking about the excitement on Manu Rao, where Brasso and some others are undocumented farm workers whose visas are being checked by the Imperials in a situation that has no bearing on modern day at all. What do you think of that plotline?
Very very true to the current state of the world. It's actually funny, not funny, I guess sardonic is a better word, but them asking about like checking visas, that happens in that first episode, second episode.
I think both.
Yeah, I think it's mentioned in the first episode, and that was the episode we got to see at Celebration. And right after that panel, I got in line for the Ahsoka panel, and immediately around me were 2 Italians, an Argentine, and a German. We were all talking about how ridiculously like true to the times that moment was, and how it was like we're all like, yeah, it's like scary to just exist right now, and like the fascism that exists in the world is like being just put on full display in this show. And it was just really interesting to hear different people's perspectives on it, but we all agreed that like the show has matured and changed to kind of change with the times that have become unfortunately even darker since 2022, 3, whenever this first season came out.
Right.
But yeah, it definitely struck a chord because it's scary out there, dude. I mean, there's reports of that happening in America now. People just ICE agents on trains checking people's citizenship.
Yep, very much so. And then we get to probably, I think, from what I've heard, one of the most controversial scenes of these 3 episodes, but one that's very powerful, where an Imperial officer finds Bix, and at first starts kind of like implying that like, hey, if she's nice to him sexually, then he will overlook her being undocumented, kind of offering kind of like the gentle side of sexual coercion. And then when that doesn't work, it just straight up becomes, a physical attempt. How'd you guys think about that scene?
I was really scared with where it was going because I wasn't sure what she would do.
Right.
To be honest with you. Like, I didn't know where her trauma would take her in that moment, whether it would be fight or freeze.
Right.
And I was just not sure how far they were going to go.
Right. Because for those who don't remember, Bix has been not just like traumatized by the Empire in general, but she was specifically tortured by Dedra and the ISB for information about Andor. So she's already been through the ringer before this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Pretty sure she kills him.
Yes. Yeah. When she hit him in the head with that thing and there was like that extra thunk, I was like, ooh, that's a death blow.
He's dead. He's very dead.
He's a goner. And then he stood up a little bit and wandered around. She hit him again. Hell yeah.
I mean, got what he deserved.
And then he walked out of the hut and fell and snapped his neck when he hit something. Hell yeah.
Oh, I just thought he was already like he was dead upon arrival.
He was for sure dead, but like the way his head hit, like that just like
yeah.
As a medical person, that would have also done.
This is an official opinion of a nursing student.
Yes, very high credentials, guys.
We declare him dead at that point. Yeah, I know there's been some pushback, some folks saying like, oh, because she specifically names it a rape that he attempted when she's talking to another character, and that a lot of people were clutching their pearls about this. We even had Star Wars theories saying like, oh, this would never happen, Vader would never allow this or anything like that, and I think it is utter nonsense because while we have not seen this specific thing happen, Jabba didn't put Leia in that bikini because he was worried she would overheat in big clothing. That was clearly for like sexual gratification. And to me, one of what that scene showed to me wasn't like, oh, there's this imperial policy of like everyone go forward and like, sexually assault where you can.
Yeah.
But instead it's just when you are authoritarian, when the rule is of power, not of law, the people who are doing under that are going to get away with whatever they can get away with. And so when they can steal from people, they're going to steal. And if they're the kind of horrible person who wants to try and assault Bix like that, that's what they're going to do. And yeah, to me, it was a hard scene to watch. And I know for a lot of people, it would be much harder than it was to watch for me. And I want to kind of acknowledge that sensitivity. And there's been some discussion about if there should have been like trigger warnings. And I think that's not a discussion I can really comment on. But in terms of like reinforcing for us just how bad things are and how not only from the top but from like the little like guy running a patrol who thinks he's empowered to do these things, to do horrible things like this, like it was important to show that.
Yeah, I just want to just add that I think that not that it wasn't real already, but that scene to me really brought home just how how vile every level of the Empire is. And this is like, sure, he's an officer, but like, this is a small time operation. And it feels like with every episode, my deep hatred for the Empire grows and grows. And it's meant to show you like, they're not just these, faceless stormtroopery bad guys who fight rebels on the battlefield. Like they are evil, thugged, power hungry, like men who are taking advantage of vulnerable populations across the galaxy. And I think Star Wars going dark like this is very interesting. I've wanted a darker Star Wars show. That was a disturbing scene. But I'm curious, like, as the show progresses, what else they show, what else they build to really hit home. Because they kept reiterating in the Andor panel and press leading up to this movie that this show that it's darker, it's more mature, it's meant to really make you think about the people in the Empire. So definitely making me do that.
Yeah.
It's also unfortunately the reality of real wars that we don't like to think about.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in fascist countries if you let them go unchecked. Just saying. Not pointing any fingers.
Alex, now you're with us again. Want to give you a chance. We kind of back up a little bit. What was kind of your overall thoughts on these episodes?
I liked it a lot. I was a little. The very first time I saw the first episode, I was a little confused just because like Bix was in such bad shape at night, and then suddenly she was just okay working in the field, and I like threw me off for a minute. But once I got the pacing down, I understood better. I think it's just like the pacing is different from the first season. The first season was very, very slow, gradual. I mean, every episode was like a matter of hours versus, these episodes are meant to be like 3 episodes for a year. But I thought that overall it was really strong. I was really, really into into that's a loose word, but like the wedding stuff with Mon Mothma was fascinating. That was the most interesting.
That's one of the plot lines
part.
we haven't gotten to yet.
That's the most interesting plot line to me in the entire first 3 episodes. That was heartbreaking, fascinating. It was a study of the uber wealthy in a fascist regime all in one. I was a big fan of that whole sequence. And seeing Mon Mothma trapped in this world of excess and knowing that she's basically sold her daughter to try and form this rebellion. Fund the rebellion. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a lot to say about that. First of all, I just want to make note and confirm, because because I think it may have sounded weird that like I had something to say and then Alex had something to say about the sexual violence conversation, and then we just moved on. Just to acknowledge, Erin, you did not have anything else you wanted to add to that, correct? I think we were kind of pausing to let you jump in if you wanted to.
No, I mean, I feel like I said my piece. Like something like that. It goes into what I mentioned to you earlier, Matthew, about hoping you can always spot a monster.
Yeah.
And like, you could spot that monster immediately. Immediately. And like, yeah, it's just interesting to think about.
Yeah. No, I think for sure. And I think there's nothing in this that is being done unintentionally, and I'm sure we're going to see, continued discussion of threads like that. So, Alex, though, the other two things I want to just quickly see if you caught or what your feelings were about, especially as Rebels fans. At the very beginning, the ship that Cassian steals, that's the TIE Interceptor that Thrawn's trying to build, right?
That was indeed a TIE Interceptor with shields and hyperdrive.
Yep. Yeah.
That was very
awesome.
cool.
I'm trying to get my hopes up, but I think we might see a blue man at some point in the show. So
that'd be kind of crazy.
If that comes true, or just mention to him. The other one was, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The planet that the Imperials are talking about getting ready to just do these horrible things to, Ghorman, that's the one that in Rebels, when Mon Mothma's on the run, she says the thing she did to piss everyone off was she gave a speech calling out the Emperor for the abuses of the people of Ghorman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's what I was in my sleep-deprived state on Monday was trying to get at some point. I don't remember what I said. I rambled a little bit. But yes, absolutely. She, that was her breaking point with the Empire, finally, was she gave this giant speech about the attacks on the Ghormans, which is why I tend to believe we're going to actually see that speech in this show and see her break from the Empire, which is going to be fucking fascinating. Which is also what I think would if we got a Palpatine cameo, that would be when it would happen.
Well, and the fact that we literally are seeing the beginnings of that plot now is just, I think you were absolutely right. So great call on that. So let's talk about Mon Mothma throwing back shots and going out to a rave. Because there's nothing else she can do. What'd you all think of that plot line?
It was my favorite.
Yeah?
I felt so deeply for Mon Mothma, and it was fascinating for on multiple levels for me. One, if you strip everything else away, just seeing the cultural traditions of Chandrua by itself without all the undertones, really interesting. It was just really weird, fascinating. I like that they built this entire world around that. The actual visuals, the costume design, all of that was the choreography of the dancing, all of it spectacular. Then you look at the actual undertones of all the players that are there, and Mon Mothma having to juggle her drunk friend, who at first I thought was asking to be her lover, but then I realized was just asking for money.
I definitely had no idea what was going on, and then I thought he was asking for both.
I also thought at the beginning I thought he was asking, basically, I'm being underappreciated. I thought he was asking for sex, and then I was like, oh no, he's asking for money. Excuse me. It wasn't overly clear, but her dealing with that, literally trying to tell her daughter you don't have to do this, it's okay, and her being I wish you were drunk, just
that was cold as hell.
Daughter fucking just destroying her husband being so where's your lover? I mean, this one's being attacked from everyone on all. She has no one, and yet she perseveres. She pushes forward, she moves forward, and just seeing though her kind of resign herself to her daughter partaking in all of this and just kind of being indoctrinated, and it was an out-of-body experience. And the cutting, the way they interplayed the drunken dancing with the battle on that farm world, and the deaths of people, people were getting killed, and then you cut back to Mon Mothma dancing drunkenly. It was just, I think Tony Gilroy wrote that expertly.
Yeah, I thought it was so well done. And we didn't even comment on the death of Brasso, which was also so like I figure we're gonna have someone important die in every one of these weekly arcs, but that one hit really hard. Um,
Can I
but
ask a
yeah, I
quick
thought the
question,
last,
Matthew, about
yeah,
that? I'm very. I couldn't tell if I was being dumb or not, and I want to know what you both. Is the implication that Andor accidentally shot him, or
I feel like he did.
I couldn't tell.
I don't know,
I
but I feel like
rewatched the
he
scene
did.
3 times, and I cannot tell if the implication is he accidentally killed him or he was killed by the Imperials and Andor just saw it later. I'm curious what you both thought. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah. Erin, go ahead if you had thoughts.
I just couldn't tell. Once again, I was doing some cleaning and I was watching it on my phone, so it wasn't very big for me.
Mm-hmm.
And since it was getting late and I had clinical this morning, I didn't want to replay anything. I was like, if I have time tomorrow, I'll go through it. I didn't, sorry. But yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, I definitely need to watch that again at some point. I was actually excited to talk to you guys. I was hoping one of you knew if he was like had fallen off the thing and just like what happened? Like, was he shot by a stormtrooper? I don't know. And I think it wasn't clear. And I think maybe that was on purpose.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened, but I think we're supposed to think that it's enough of a possibility that Andor feels distinctly guilty about it.
Mhm.
Because also, even if it wasn't him who actually shot him, it was him kind of like breaking it all up that caused Brasso to grab the speeder and run for it. And maybe he was going to die anyway, but like he certainly got killed as part of that escape attempt. So I think it was Andor thinking that like either directly or indirectly he is responsible for Brasso's death. And I think like we know how much guilt he's carrying. That's a plot line that comes out in Rogue One. So I think this is definitely going to be a big part of that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad you guys brought up kind of the parallel between the battle and the party. Because I
Mhm.
was watching it. Again, it's late. I had a little smoke. And I'm like, are they for real right now? Like, they're showing the squad in the like ship, like sobbing and clutching onto each other. I don't know if it was that dramatic, but that was the vibes it was giving.
Yeah.
And then it's like Chandrillan, like EDM music. It's like,
Yeah.
and they're like, and I texted Alex about that. I was like, the Chandrillan party music while the squad mourns Brazzo's death was dastardly. Like,
Yeah.
that was out of control.
And I think that was very intentional. And I think it was supposed to be. We were talking earlier about how the little sitcom of Dedra and Cyril and his mother kind of undercut that like they have a much more comfortable life. And I think this is supposed to show that like Mon does have a much more comfortable and much more safe life in some ways, but also all the secrets that she's having to keep. Her cousin seeing her girlfriend just out of the corner of her eye for that one moment as the driver who's going to go off and take Tay and probably kill him. But, the idea that basically her relationship has been lost because that she's more focused on the rebellion than on keeping that relationship. Like, yeah, I think that scene was really meant to be heartbreaking for the Mothma family, for both of them.
Absolutely. I do have a quick question while we're on the subject of Tay. Mr. Banker Drunk Man, Mr. Maybe Wants to Fuck Man.
Yes.
Is that the guy that she started a rumor about sleeping with during Mask of Fear?
I also was trying to think of that, and I could not remember.
I believe it is, yes.
I only have the audiobook, so I couldn't like go back and look.
I believe it is, listeners. If you remember more, and I will try and check it for next episode, but I believe it is, yeah.
It's like I don't really recognize the last name, but I could swear to God that was the first name.
Yeah. I think it was. Either way, it's supposed to all be connected. And I think, and I want to hear from more folks. I really want to hear from Danielle, written in the Star Wars, on this podcast a bunch, because, we talked with her a lot about the whole topic of indigeneity and how, like, the world that Cassian and his sister comes from is portrayed as, like, they don't speak Galactic Basic. They're very much portrayed as kind of indigenous, less cultured by our very, specifically biased eyes. And I think definitely to, what's his adopted mother's name? It's not Mothma. It's
Marva.
Marva. Thank you. To her eyes, she kind of sees them as like, noble primitives or something like that. But at the same time, this episode was a lot about Chandrillan indigenousness. They speak in the language that they spoke before Galactic Basic came along. They talk about the rituals, and there's this statue that was 35,000 years ago when they were conquered. All this stuff that's all about their ancient history and their ancient culture. I think that was a very interesting comment on how, like, in our own world, like, the indigeneity of folks is looked on a lot nicer than it is of brown folks and the like. And that's, I think, again, I think at this point, what you have to assume, like, there's nothing that's coincidental in this show. Like, Tony Gilroy is very aware of everything that he's doing, everything the writers' room is doing. And so just focusing so much on this being, like, a native ritual of Chandrilla, like, pre-Republic, felt very intentional.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting, all the kind of lore we were getting there. And also the way that, what's her husband's name?
Oh, Perrin.
Perrin, thank you. The way Perrin, like, is joking through the ceremony.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm the dad, so I'm supposed to say this, so here you go. And now the next part I've got to do is this. So here, that man is so goddamn unserious. Like, I just cannot with him. Like, earlier in the episodes when she, like, asks him to deal with the parking thing, and then he immediately agrees to go to the bar with somebody. Like, he is just... I would hate being married to him, but he's kind of an entertaining character to watch.
Yeah. No, I think it's true. And you kind of get why he's a good cover for Mothma in that way.
And
Lavender
Marriage.
Yeah, I really love
but just without...
I really love that Lucian showed up at the wedding, because that's, again, like, he's part of, like, Republic high society. And I guess is he supposed to be Chandrillan as well, or is he just, like...
No, I don't think Luthen is Chandrillan.
No, I think Luthen is just. I mean, I don't
just an art
think.
dealer.
I think he's just like a collector of artifacts and.
Right, and he's friends with their family.
Yeah, friends with all of, like, the high end communities across the rich inner core is my understanding.
I think we know, like, nothing about Luthen's background.
Yeah, that's my vibe. But I did know.
That's what I remember.
I will note that in the Andor panel, they said we will learn more about it in this show this season. So we'll find something out.
That'll be kind of cool. I don't want this to go too long. There's going to be so much for us to talk about with every episode. But let me just ask you, Alex, because this is something I commented on in the beginning.
Yeah.
What did you think of Rock, Paper, Scissors World? We know that it's Yavin. My comment was that I thought it was really important to show, like, the idioticness of rebels sometimes, the way, even when you're fighting the best of causes, you can fight with each other, you cannot trust each other. But my feeling was it kind of dragged. Like, there's a point where I was like, okay, I get it. They're all stupid. Andor's trapped. Can we move beyond this?
Yeah. So I saw it kind of similarly. To me, it evoked things I've seen and studied about, like some of the Vietnam Wars were like. Or in Vietnam, Jesus, I'm gonna say that again. Sorry. For me, it evoked some things I'd seen and read about the Vietnam War, where, like, soldiers would, like, not know who to trust, and they would, turn on each other, and it would just be very scary. And, like, I think it was meant to, like, make you realize that, especially in the early days of the rebellion, like, it wasn't well organized. I mean, it was a bunch of people that were scared and brave at the same time. But I also agree that, like, after a point, I was like, okay, like, why are we still here? What? Andor, you could just escape, brother. Like, what? This is. It felt a little silly. I also was, like, very shook when it was just Yavin. I was like, oh, that's just Yavin. All right, that was really random. And, like, are they just there now? Are they gonna get eaten by the animals and that's just it? Like, are they gonna come back later? Like, I was just a little confused about what the whole point of that was, besides just a plot device to keep Andor from being able to get to his objective sooner than later.
That's what I was going to say, is I feel like it definitely plays a purpose of giving him something to do so that they can play out the really in-depth story that's happening on, you said it was Mina Rao?
Yeah.
So that they have the time to address all these really, like, big topics still, like, in a very well done way, rather than rushing through that, so that Cassian's not stuck here for 2.5 episodes or however long.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I can understand why they did it. I said at the start of the episode, like, this story arc didn't bother me too much. I just kind of like went along with it. I thought it was really funny, Alex, the way he was like spoon feeding them survival tips.
Yeah, just slowly. It's like I think it was meant to show you that like Andor does know a lot. He can stay calm in these situations. But it was like it felt true to what war is like, but it felt like I didn't need to see it for 3 episodes.
Yeah, I think it's fair. But I think also you're right that like they don't really have anything else for him to do. Like I think they could have thrown in one more stop for him. But
yeah. I have one question before we end, and my one question is, Matthew, you asked me on Monday, or you said to me on Monday that you were cautiously optimistic, and the last time you felt this way about a show, Daredevil crushed you. Just from these 3 episodes, do you feeling good? You feeling bad? You feeling okay?
I'm feeling good.
Okay.
I'm definitely feeling good. I think about the middle of episode 1, when we maybe towards the end of episode 1, when we got into that well, I just gave him that planet, but we know now it's Yavin 4. But he got to that planet with the idiot rebels, and that scene was going on. I was like, this. That felt distinctly unlike the quality of season 1. And I think that's an incredibly high bar to measure it against. And I think, like, had it been almost any other show, I probably wouldn't have minded. But I think at that point, I was starting to kind of gear myself up for, you know what? That's okay. It's still going to be an interesting show. It's hard to catch lightning in a bottle twice. This will be fine. But then by middle of episode 3, I was like, okay, no, we're back to everything being just as amazing. So yeah, it was a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but we got there.
Yeah, and to be fair, the first time I saw Andor season 1, I thought the first few episodes were like a little bit too slow for me, and it took me like till episode 3 to really like be in it. So I appreciate them releasing 3 at a time, and I'm excited to see where the next year goes.
Yeah, I definitely think if we'd gone to the end of episode 1, I would have been a little bit weary and down.
I would agree, and that's what kind of the vibe I got when I watched it Celebration 2. Everyone was like really excited. Then everyone was like, "Wait, what just happened at the end of episode 1?" That was a little like, and we're like, "Wait, like we need more now," and then we weren't given more, and we're like, "Wait, what just happened?" But it's all good now. We're fine.
Exactly.
Aaron, got some
Aaron, any last
beautiful
questions
light.
or comments for us before we wrap up?
Isn't that a nice light I get through my apartment?
Yeah, my nice light my nice light is being blocked by a shade because I don't want it in my eyes.
Oh, can't relate.
For a while, you have like half your face in shadow right now. It legit makes you look like a Star Wars alien.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Use my knowledge.
I did have something to say. Oh, I looked it up. I am pretty sure Tacoma is not the person who's rumored to be, because the person who's rumored to be her lover, I think, is someone she had like dated in the past, whereas Tay is just said to be like a childhood friend.
So basically, the rumors are going around that Mon Mothma is like sleeping with multiple men at this point.
She just fucking.
I mean, she's a powerful woman, of course. Like that's
But no one bats an eye.
That's how the rumors work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, thank you both so much. To our listeners, thank you. Let us know what you think. Want to hear all your thoughts and theories before the next set of episodes. Live long and prosper.
Stay classy, Chandrilla.
We need Ghorman rebels you can depend on to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, why do I think those rebels on Yavin are about to take a trip to Ghorman? All right. Peace out, everyone.
Bye, y'all.